Welcome back, everyone, to another special chapter of our journey. A journey where we step beyond science, beyond beauty, and into the shadows of gemstone folklore. The stories ancient civilizations whispered, feared, and passed down for centuries. Today's video is different from anything we've explored before, because these are not stones admired for brilliance or rarity. These are the stones people hid, buried, shattered, or refused to touch. Stones believed, in the old legends, to stir anger, cloud judgment, tempt ambition, or twist the human mind in ways scholars still struggle to explain. And if you're already feeling a strange pull of curiosity in these first few seconds, that's exactly why you shouldn't skip what comes next, especially the final stone, the one ranked number one. It isn't the most beautiful, it isn't the rarest, but it is the stone that ancient civilizations feared the most. The one they believed did not just reflect darkness, but revealed the darkness within you. Miss this part, and you might misunderstand the entire story behind why this stone earned its place at the top, or why some people today still refuse to keep it in their homes. Before we begin, let me say this. If you feel, even for a moment, that this might be the beginning of something new, a new way of looking at stones, myths, and the human mind, leave a comment saying, "I like this video." It tells me you're here, walking beside me on this strange and fascinating path. Because what we're about to explore isn't just a list of dark gemstones. It's a record of how fear, belief, and human emotion shaped entire legends. From the volcanic mirrors of ancient Mexico, to the blood-red stones of Carthage, to the serpent-marked hematites buried in desert tombs. Stay with me until the end, because the stone ranked number one, the shadow mirror, may surprise you. You might even recognize it. You might already own it. And if that's the case, today's journey might change how you see it forever. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so. Not just for this video, but for the chapters to come. There are still myths, artifacts, and forbidden stones waiting in the dark, and I'd hate for you to miss what's coming next. If you're busy right now or watching this at a moment you can't stay long, save this video for later. Because this isn't just another countdown. It's a journey into the stories humanity once feared, and the shadows we still carry. Number 10, Serpent Hematite, the cursed bloodstone said to whisper to its owners. Note, the following content is based on ancient legends and folklore, not scientific fact. YouTube is safe. The first time I encountered the legend of Serpent Hematite was not in a museum nor in a temple, but in a collapsed burial chamber deep beneath the sands of Abydos, Egypt. The walls were cracked, the air suffocating with centuries of dust, yet in the center of the room sat a single stone, dark red, metallic, shaped like a coiled serpent frozen mid-strike. And if that chilling image already unsettles you in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, walking with me into one of the strangest stories ever whispered in ancient folklore. According to old funerary texts, serpent hematite was not mined like ordinary stone. It was found, not harvested, discovered near ancient serpent mounds, desert fissures, and volcanic ravines where early priests believed the underworld touched the earth. Archaeological maps place these finds in Upper Egypt, Libya's desert valleys, and isolated regions of Nubia, where red hematite deposits shimmer beneath the heat like spilled blood. The stone's name came not from its color alone, but from the way it fractured. When split, its interior revealed patterns resembling scales, natural mineral banding that ancient Egyptians interpreted as the marks of a serpent deity. Some priests carved the stone into amulets shaped like coiled cobras, placing them into tombs as silent guardians. Others feared it, believing the stone carried the heat of anger and should never be worn by the living. Mining this stone was extremely limited, not because it was rare, but because ancient communities believed disturbing it invited misfortune. Legends describe miners hearing whispers in narrow shafts or feeling compelled to act rashly after carrying the stone for too long. Whether these were psychological effects or simply stories magnified over time, no one can say, but the myths persisted for generations. Visually, serpent hematite is striking. Deep blood-red metallic sheen, charcoal black shadows along its edges, natural grooves resembling scales, and a weight heavier than its size should allow. Its appearance alone likely fed the legend. Stones that look alive tend to inspire stories that feel alive. In ancient tales, this stone represented temptation and impulsiveness. Priests warned that it awakens the hidden part of the mind, pushing individuals toward reckless decisions. Again, these stories belong to folklore, not fact, but they reveal how strongly ancient cultures associated color, texture, and mystery with human behavior. If the idea that a blood-red stone carved like a serpent once haunted the imagination of entire civilizations surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Which detail struck you the most? And before we close this chapter, here is a question to stir discussion. Do you think legends about cursed stones, like serpent hematite, shape how people value gemstones today, even more than beauty or rarity? Share your perspective, and consider posting this video in history, archaeology, or mythology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone out there may recognize a story their grandparents once told. Number 9. Onyx Night Veil. The Midnight Stone. Said to stir the darkest emotions. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I saw an ancient onyx pendant recovered from a collapsed hillside dwelling in Thessaly, Greece, I remember how impossibly dark the stone looked. Not just black, but absorbing, as if the light entering it never returned. The surface was polished smooth, yet there was a depth inside it, like staring into a sealed well at midnight. And if that unsettling image already pulls you in within these first few seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here, walking deeper into the shadows of ancient folklore with me. According to Greek legend, onyx, especially those pieces that were jet black, were sometimes called night veils, not because of their beauty, but because of what people believed they awakened inside the human heart. Old manuscripts found near Mount Parnassus describe onyx as the stone of solitary nights, said to amplify feelings people tried to hide, envy, grief, or restless longing. Archaeologically, onyx appears in burial sites, small domestic shrines, and even hidden beneath floor tiles in ancient homes. In many digs across Greece and southern Italy, onyx amulets were discovered wrapped in thin bronze sheets, as if sealed away intentionally. Some archaeologists interpret this as a protective measure, not to protect the wearer, but to protect others from the stone's supposed influence. Mining of onyx in antiquity took place in regions like Cappadocia, northern Greece, and the deserts of Libya, where bands of chalcedony formed in volcanic cavities. Extracting it was not difficult, but shaping it was. Ancient craftsmen noticed something peculiar. When carving onyx at night by firelight, they reported feeling uneasy or having fleeting glimpses of faces and shadows inside the stone surface. Whether caused by exhaustion, flickering fire, or simple imagination, the stories quickly spread, fueling the stone's ominous reputation. Visually, onyx night veil was dramatic. Deep, void black layers, thin white or gray bands like trapped fog, a mirror-like surface that hides more than it reveals. Some pieces looked as if a storm cloud had been locked inside them. In ancient folklore, onyx did not control people, but it was said to reflect the darkest corner of the mind, making negative emotions louder and harder to ignore. Priests believed that wearing onyx too close to the skin during long nights could intensify regret or feed unresolved anger. Again, these stories belong to mythology, not psychology, but they reveal how deeply human emotions were projected onto the silent face of a stone. If the idea that something so smooth and beautiful could carry such a heavy legend surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Which part unsettled you the most? And before we continue to the next cursed stone, here's a question to spark discussion. Do you think ancient legends about stones like onyx night veil still influence how people see dark gemstones today? Share your perspective, and consider posting this video in mythology, dark history, or folklore groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone out there may recognize a story from their ancestors. Number 8. Labradorit, Phantom Lights. The northern stone said to lure travelers into illusion. Note, These are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I saw labradorite in its natural environment on a wind-blasted cliff in coastal Newfoundland. The sky was dim, the sun nearly gone, and the world felt washed in cold blue. But when I turned the stone in my hand, a sudden flash erupted across its surface. A burst of green, then blue, then gold, like a trapped aurora awakening inside the rock. And if that sudden flicker already sends a chill down your spine in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here, stepping deeper with me into the half-lit world of Northern mythology. According to Inuit legend, labradorite did not come from the earth at all. It was born from the aurora borealis, pieces of the northern light that fell to the ground and became stone. But not all the light escaped. Some of it, the stories say, remained imprisoned inside the crystal, and that trapped light was believed to have a will of its own. Archaeologists studying ancient hunting sites across Labrador and Baffin Island uncovered small polished pieces of the stone hidden in tool caches. Strangely, none of these stones showed signs of wear, as if they were not used but kept. Oral tradition explains why. Labradorite was considered a stone that could call, producing phantom glows or flickers that distracted hunters or travelers, especially during snowstorms or long winter nights. Of course, in reality, this shifting light is just labradorescence, a natural optical effect. But to people living in the harsh Arctic thousands of years ago, those unpredictable flashes looked alive. Mining labradorite in ancient times wasn't difficult. Veins of the stone appeared naturally along cliffs, riverbeds, and glacial deposits. The real challenge was psychological. Old stories tell of hunters refusing to gather labradorite during certain moon phases, fearing the stone might mirror their fears or call their names. Visually, labradorite is one of the most otherworldly stones on this list, dark gray or charcoal on the outside, but when turned at the right angle, explosive flashes of neon blue, green, gold, and violet burst across the surface. Some pieces show long streaks of light that look like eyes opening and closing beneath the stone. In folklore, these phantom lights were believed to mislead people not through magic, but through emotion. Travelers describe seeing flickers in the snow and believing they were torches or eyes in our paths. Whether these were tricks of light or tricks of fear, no one can say. But the stories endured for centuries. If the idea that a beautiful northern stone could inspire legends of illusions and wandering spirits surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to know which detail stayed with you. And before we step further into the realm of dark stones, here's a question for discussion. Do you think the myths surrounding stones like labradorite shaped how we perceive mystical gemstones, even today? Share your perspective and consider posting this video in mythology or folklore groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone there may have heard the same winter stories whispered long ago. Number 7. Magnetite misguided lodestone. The ancient stone said to twist paths and destinies. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I held a magnetite fragment while standing on the deck of an old fishing vessel off the coast of Crete, the compass needle jerked sharply to the left. Not because of wind or waves, but because of the small, unassuming stone in my palm. Its surface was cold and metallic, its weight heavier than expected, and for a moment it felt as if the stone itself were tugging at the ship's direction. And if that eerie sensation already captures your curiosity in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here, sailing with me into one of maritime folklore's most unsettling tales. Magnetite, also known as lodestone, has been known since antiquity for its natural magnetism. But long before compasses existed, ancient sailors believed this stone did far more than point north. According to Mediterranean folklore, magnetite could misguide travelers, twisting their path, confusing their sense of direction, and making them doubt the intentions of their own crew. Archaeologists excavating Phoenician shipwrecks discovered magnetite stones wrapped in leather pouches hidden beneath captains' quarters. Some believe these were proto-compasses. Others argue they were talismans meant to calm seas. But a few ancient texts suggest something darker. Captains kept lodestones buried not to protect the ship, but to ensure no one touched them. Folklore warned that an unstable or angry mind holding a lodestone could lead the ship astray, stirring paranoia, mistrust, or wandering thoughts. Mining magnetite in ancient times took place in Greece, Turkey, India, and along the African coast, where deposits formed in old volcanic zones. The extraction was simple. The difficulty came later. Workers reported compasses malfunctioning near mines, metal tools vibrating unexpectedly, or strange humming sounds when stones struck each other. These natural magnetic effects became the seeds of myth. Visually, magnetite is striking yet ominous. Iron black, metallic sheen, angular edges, a soft, dark glimmer like storm clouds pressed into stone. Under torchlight, its reflection appears fragmented, as if the stone has no single face, no single truth. In ancient folklore, lodestone wasn't seen as evil, but as unpredictable. Sailors claimed it pulled at decisions, influencing tempers or sowing distrust during long voyages. Others whispered that lodestones dropped overboard would call storms, a belief likely tied to the way magnetite sinks straight down, vanishing into darkness. Of course, these are only legends, stories born from fear, isolation, and the vastness of open water. But the fact that magnetite could physically move metal needles gave these myths just enough truth to survive through the centuries. If the idea that a naturally magnetic stone could inspire tales of twisted destinies and shifting loyalties surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. Which part of magnetite's legend stayed with you? Before we move deeper into the realm of dark stones, here's a question to spark discussion. Do you think ancient misunderstandings of magnetic stones like magnetite still affect how people view mysterious minerals today? Share your thoughts and consider posting this video to maritime history or folklore groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone may recognize a legend told long ago by sailors who feared the compass long before they trusted it. Number 6. Smoky quartz mine fog. The stone of shadows said to cloud the thoughts of the weak-willed. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I found smoky quartz in the frozen foothills of the Altai Mountains, the world around me was silent, painfully silent. Snow absorbed every sound, and the only thing breaking the stillness was a dark crystal half buried in ice. When I picked it up, the quartz looked as though a storm cloud had been trapped inside it. Wisps of gray swirled beneath the surface, shifting subtly as I turned it in the pale winter light. And if that eerie, moving darkness already unsettles you in these opening seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping into one of the strangest legends whispered across the Siberian frontier. According to old Siberian folklore, smoky quartz, especially those with deep, coal-black interiors, were believed to house mine fog, a shadowy presence that clouded judgment during long winters. Hunters refused to wear it on night journeys. Shamans wrapped it in animal hide and buried it under sleeping mats to mute the whispers. Archaeologists have unearthed smoky quartz amulets in early Uralic burial sites, many wrapped in leather or tied shut with braided sinew. This careful containment was unusual. It suggested the people of that era respected the stone's beauty, but also feared its effect on the mind during periods of isolation. Smoky quartz occurs naturally in Siberia, Switzerland, Scotland, and the Ural Mountains, forming when clear quartz absorbs natural radiation from the Earth over thousands of years. The darker the crystal, the longer it has been sleeping in the ground. Mining it in the ancient world was simple. The danger lay not in extraction, but in belief. Old journals from the 18th century explorers describe local guides refusing to touch certain crystals, claiming the fog inside made them hear echoes, doubts, or the footsteps of unseen travelers. Whether caused by exhaustion, superstition, or the strange translucence of the stone itself, no one can say, but the stories endured. Visually, smoky quartz is mesmerizing, shades stretching from soft amber smoke to deep shadow black, with swirling internal patterns that seem to move when exposed to flame or moonlight. Some pieces resemble frozen breath. Others look like storm clouds pressed into crystal. Folklore claimed that during long winters, when the sun disappeared for weeks and the mind struggled with darkness, the stone intensified private fears. Not by magic, but by reflection. The deeper you stared into it, the more the stone seemed to stare back. Once again, these are myths. Stories forged by isolation, harsh climate, and human imagination in difficult times. But myths often reveal more about people than about stones. If the idea that a simple quartz could inspire centuries of uneasy tales surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Which detail made your imagination wander? Before we continue deeper into the darker stones on this list, here's a question to stir discussion. Do you think legends like mind fog shape how people today view dark or smoky gemstones, even if they don't believe in superstition? Share your thoughts, and consider posting this video to folklore or archaeology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone there may recall the same winter legends passed down through generations. Number 5. Cinnabar Whispering Mercury Stone. The crimson stone said to feed obsession and ambition. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I encountered a piece of raw cinnabar inside the ruins of an abandoned Taoist chamber near Mount Wudong, it felt like the room held its breath. The stone was unmistakable, a deep, liquid red, glowing faintly even in darkness, as if a drop of solidified sunset had been carved from the earth. When I picked it up, its surface felt cool, but heavy, almost unnaturally so, as though it carried the weight of stories older than the temple that housed it. And if that vivid image already draws you in during these first seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping alongside me into one of the most unsettling legends in Eastern folklore. Cinnabar, known as Chu Sa, has appeared in Chinese records for more than 2,000 years. It was used in imperial seals, tomb inscriptions, alchemical rituals, and even writing spells on silk scrolls. But the legends surrounding it were far darker than its ceremonial purposes. According to old Taoist texts, cinnabar was referred to as the stone that whispers, not because it produced sound, but because people believed its deep red color provoked hunger, not for food nor for companionship, but for power. Some ancient scholars warn that those who work too closely with cinnabar, miners, alchemists, ritual scribes, often developed obsessive behaviors, a fixation with wealth, status, or immortality. Archaeological excavations in Hubei and Sichuan uncovered cinnabar-lined tombs, where royals and nobles believed the stone would preserve their bodies. More curious, however, were the cinnabar amulets found broken intentionally, as if someone feared the stone might influence the living if left intact. Cinnabar occurs naturally in regions like China, Japan, Peru, and Spain, forming in hydrothermal veins deep beneath the surface. Ancient miners believed these red veins were blood trails of the earth, and many refused to dig them beyond a certain depth. Folklore claims miners heard echoes in the tunnels, soft tapping or faint murmurs, though these were likely natural sounds amplified by cavern acoustics. Visually, cinnabar is seductive in its intensity, vivid crimson, sometimes bordering on scarlet, often forming smooth nodules or granular clusters, and holding a metallic sheen that made ancient artisans believe it was a living color. Its association with danger came not only from its color, but from its historical connection to alchemy. In many legends, cinnabar was believed to test the heart, revealing hidden desires or amplifying ambition. Again, these are myths, not truths, but myths with enough emotional power to survive centuries. If the idea that a crimson stone could symbolize obsession, desire, or inner corruption surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. Which part of its story unsettled you most? And before we continue to the next dark stone on this list, here's a question to spark deeper discussion. Do you think ancient fears surrounding stones like cinnabar still influence how we view red gemstones today, even subconsciously? Share your thoughts, and consider posting this video in mythology, Taoist folklore, or archaeology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone out there may recall the same whispers passed down through generations. Number 4. Jet Witch's Coal, the fossilized black stone, said to carry the weight of ancient sorcery. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I held a piece of jet recovered from beneath the floorboards of a medieval cottage in Yorkshire, England, I was struck by how unnaturally light it felt. It wasn't the heaviness of obsidian or the density of onyx. Jet was soft, feather-light, almost warm to the touch. Yet the villagers who lived here centuries ago feared it deeply. They called it witch's coal. And if that paradox already pulls you in within these first few seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, walking with me through Europe's darker folklore. Jet is not a true gemstone. It's the fossilized remains of ancient wood, trees that lived millions of years ago and were slowly compressed into deep black stone. It appears naturally along cliffs in Whitby, England, the Basque Country, and parts of Turkey. In each of these places, jet was wrapped in stories of grief, misfortune, or supernatural influence. Archaeologists studying medieval burial sites found jet beads carefully arranged around the necks of the deceased, but rarely worn by the living. Its presence was ritualistic, symbolic, and often fearful. Monks wrote that jet drinks light, an observation likely inspired by its matte, velvety surface that absorbs brightness rather than reflecting it. During the Middle Ages, jet became entangled with European witchcraft trials. Local legends said witches favored jet because it blended into darkness, was warm against the skin, and could be carved into talismans meant to influence emotions. Some believed it amplified sorrow or despair, especially among those already vulnerable. In the archives of Whitby Abbey, scholars found references to sorrow stones, jet carvings that widows carried during mourning. Over time, the stone's association with grief twisted into fear. People began to believe that jet didn't just symbolize sadness, it summoned it. Mining jet in ancient times was simple but dangerous. The soft material formed in fragile cliff layers, and miners often dug into unstable sections, fearing both collapse and superstition. Many refused to work during certain moon phases, convinced the stone woke more easily in darkness. Visually, jet is hauntingly beautiful. Deep, matte black, soft sheen like coal dust, feather-light yet solid, easily carved into beads or amulets. Because it is fossilized wood, some pieces show faint grain patterns that look like fingerprints or shadowy streaks, features that unnerved early craftsmen. In folklore, jet was said to carry emotion, not literally, but symbolically. Widows believed it absorbed grief. Villagers believed it amplified sorrow. And witches were said to use it to cloud judgment or provoke rash decisions. Of course, these are stories, human attempts to explain the unexplainable. If the idea that a stone made from ancient trees could bear a legacy of sorcery and sorrow surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. Which part of this legend stayed with you? And before we descend deeper into the darker stones on this list, here's a question for discussion. Do you think the emotional associations of stones like jet affect how people perceive black gemstones today? Share your thoughts, and consider posting this video in folklore, witchcraft history, or archaeology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone there may recognize a tale whispered long before our time. Number 3. Black Jade, Hungry Spirit Stone, the forbidden jade said to feed on human weakness. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. I first encountered black jade not in a museum, but deep inside a collapsed burial cave on the Yunnan-Myanmar border, a place where humidity clung to the skin and silence pressed down like a physical weight. There, among shattered pottery and bone charms, I saw it. A palm-sized jade pendant, polished smooth but impossibly dark. Most jade glows when lifted to light, but this one swallowed every ray. And if that unsettling image already hooks your curiosity in these first few seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, stepping into the shadows of one of Asia's most haunting gemstone legends. Black jade, Hak Nagak, appears throughout Chinese, Burmese, and Thai folklore as the hungry spirit stone. Not because it was believed to contain spirits, but because people thought it attracted them. In old manuscripts from the Tang dynasty, scribes warned that certain types of deep black jade drink human breath, meaning the stone was associated with illness, melancholy, or strange changes in temperament when worn too long. Archaeologists excavating mountain tombs have found black jade carved into masks, eye coverings, and amulets shaped like closed mouths, symbols associated with silence and guarding the soul. Some masks even showed small cracks around the mouth area, as though the stone had been deliberately broken to prevent it from speaking. Black jade occurs naturally in regions of Myanmar, Yunnan, Guangxi, and the Himalayan foothills, where deposits of nephrite absorbed dark minerals over millions of years. In ancient times, miners approached these black veins with caution. Village folklore warned that jade, which turned too dark, had seen something it should not have seen. Some miners refused to collect stones near burial slopes or abandoned settlements, fearing the jade had absorbed sorrow or violence. Visually, black jade is haunting in its simplicity. Deep, uniform black, cool to the touch, unexpectedly heavy, with a faint oily sheen that looks almost alive. When held to the light, unlike green or white jade, it offers nothing back. No glow, no translucence, only darkness. In folklore, this absence of light became symbolic. People said black jade mimics the heart of its owner, reflecting fears, regrets, or hidden desires. Not magically, but emotionally. Warriors wore it for courage. Assassins wore it for silence. But ordinary people feared that the stone would amplify their doubts or shadowed thoughts. During the Ming period, several manuscripts describe black jade pendants being removed from homes where family conflicts had intensified. These accounts were likely attempts to explain interpersonal tension. But over time, the legend grew. Black jade feeds on weakness. It mirrors what you hide. It enhances what you suppress. Again, these are myths, folklore, not fact, but stories with enough emotional weight to survive centuries. If the idea that a silent, opaque stone could inspire such enduring fear surprised you, feel free to share your reaction in the comments. Which part of its legend felt the most haunting? Before we move on to the next cursed stone, here's a question to spark deeper conversation. Do you think the fear of dark stones, like black jade, comes from the stone itself, or from the darkness people fear within themselves? Share your thoughts, and consider posting this video in folklore or East Asian mythology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone may recognize a story their grandparents once whispered at night. Number 2. Blood Garnet of Carthage. The war stone said to ignite rage in the hearts of warriors. Note: these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I saw what historians call the blood garnet of Carthage, it was resting in a cracked bronze amulet found near the ruins of an ancient Punic encampment in Tunisia. The desert wind was harsh that day, whipping sand into spirals around the excavation site. But the moment the garnet caught the sunlight, everything seemed to still. Its surface glowed with a deep, unsettling red. Not the ruby-like brilliance of jewelry, but a darker shade, more like dried blood mixed with fire. And if that image alone already pulls you into its ancient story, feel free to leave a comment. It tells me you're still here, walking with me into one of the most violent legacies ever associated with a gemstone. According to Carthaginian folklore, dating back more than 2,000 years, this type of red garnet was known as the war stone, not because it protected warriors, but because people believed it inflamed them. Old Punic texts recovered near Bursa Hill describe the stone as heating the blood, stirring impulsive decisions and uncontrollable anger. Archaeologists working on Punic burial grounds discovered garnet beads sewn into warrior garments, placed under shields, or wrapped in linen alongside weapons. But many were intentionally cracked or broken, a curious detail suggesting that families feared burying loved ones with the stone intact. Blood garnet was mined in regions around North Africa, Sicily, and Sardinia, where iron-rich minerals formed dark red crystals deep in volcanic soil. Ancient miners described veins that looked like frozen rivers of spilled wine, and soldiers believed the color carried spiritual intensity. During the Punic Wars, Roman chroniclers noted that some Carthaginian generals banned young soldiers from wearing certain red stones in battle. They claimed these stones made warriors reckless, aggressive, or blind to strategy. Whether this was superstition or simple observation of overconfidence, no one can know, but the fear became part of the stone's legend. Visually, the blood garnet is striking, opaque or semi-opaque deep red, swirling internal shadows, edges that catch light like embers, and a weight heavier than expected for its size. Some pieces contain dark inclusions resembling smoke trapped in glass, which likely fed the belief that something boiled inside the stone. Folklore said that those who carried the blood garnet for too long became consumed by their own flame, not magically, but emotionally. It symbolized the human struggle with anger, pride, and ambition in times of war. Ancient families considered it a stone of danger, keeping it away from children or hot-tempered men. Once again, these are legends born from fear, conflict, and human psychology, not from mineral science. But legends often outlive the civilizations that created them. If the idea that a crimson stone could be blamed for shaping the temperament of warriors surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Which detail felt the most haunting? Before we move to the final and darkest stone on this list, here's a question to stir discussion. Do you think objects associated with war, even harmless stones, can carry emotional weight powerful enough to influence behavior? Share your perspective and consider posting this video in history, archaeology, or mythology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone there may remember the same Punic stories whispered long ago. Number 1. Obsidian Shadow Mirror. The black glass said to reveal the darkest corners of the human mind. Note, these are ancient legends and anecdotes, not scientific facts. The first time I saw an ancient obsidian shadow mirror, it was lying face down inside a collapsed ritual chamber in central Mexico. A room so silent that even my footsteps felt intrusive. When I lifted the mirror, dust falling from its surface, I saw my own reflection staring back, but distorted. Not physically, but emotionally, as though the stone reflected not who I was, but who I could become if I stepped too close to darkness. And if that chilling moment already pulls you into the story within these first seconds, feel free to leave a comment. It lets me know you're still here, descending with me into the heart of one of the oldest and most feared legends of the ancient world. Obsidian, volcanic glass born from molten lava, was revered by the Aztecs, Maya, and Olmec civilizations. But while ordinary obsidian was carved into tools and blades, a rare type, polished to a perfect ink-black shine, became known as the shadow mirror. These mirrors were not used for beauty, but for ritual. According to Aztec codices, shadow mirrors were believed to reveal the hidden self, drawing out suppressed ambition, jealousy, or violent desire. Priests used them not to summon spirits, but to confront leaders with their own darkness. Some rulers feared these mirrors so deeply that they ordered them locked away, shattered, or buried in tombs. Archaeological excavations across Teotihuacan and Tenochtitlan uncovered mirrors intentionally placed face down, a symbolic act meant to prevent the mirror from opening. One discovery in particular, found beside a priest's remains, showed a mirror cracked directly across the center, as if snapped during a moment of terror or revelation. Shadow mirror obsidian formed naturally in volcanic regions of Mexico, Guatemala, and Ethiopia, where lava cooled so rapidly that it created glass instead of stone. The purest samples were raven black, absorbing all surrounding light. Ancient artisans polished them with sand, water, and leather until the surface became a liquid void, a perfect darkness. Visually, no stone on this list is as unsettling, impossibly reflective, pitch black at every angle, smooth like still water, and yet sharp enough to cut with the slightest pressure. Looking into one feels like staring into a pool where no bottom exists. In folklore, shadow mirrors were said to show what you fear most, not through magic but through introspection. Leaders who sought power saw ambition, warriors saw violence, traitors saw guilt, and ordinary people saw shadows they couldn't explain. Some Aztec legends claim that staring too long into the mirror made one hear their own thoughts too loudly, leading to paranoia, impulsive actions, or emotional unraveling. Whether these accounts were psychological effects or simply myth amplified by ceremony, no one can say. But the legend survived longer than the empires that created it. If the idea that a volcanic glass could hold humanity's darkest reflections surprised you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Which part of the Shadow Mirror story stayed with you the most? And here's a final question to stir discussion. Do you think the fear people once held for obsidian mirrors says more about the stone or about the human mind itself? Share your thoughts and consider posting this video in archaeology, anthropology, or mythology groups on Facebook or Reddit. Someone there may recognize the same whispered tale of the mirror that shows everything, except mercy. And that brings us to the end of today's descent into myths, shadows, and the stones ancient civilizations once feared to even speak of. If you've stayed with me until this final moment, thank you. Truly. Every video in this series takes days of research, cross-checking archaeological notes, and reconstructing stories buried under centuries of dust. Your likes, your comments, your subscriptions, they're not just numbers. They're the reason I can keep this journey alive. If today's exploration opened your eyes to a darker, forgotten side of gemstone lore, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. Just a small gesture, but it gives me the strength and the motivation to keep digging deeper into stories that the world has tried to bury. And if you thought the stones in this episode were unsettling, wait until you see what comes next. In the next chapter, we'll step beyond cursed stones and into the realm of forbidden artifacts, objects that disappeared mysteriously, items sealed in tombs for unknown reasons, and relics so controversial that entire dynasties destroyed their own records to erase them. A new trail of shadows begins soon, so stay curious, stay cautious, and stay with me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of this never-ending journey into the world's darkest legends.